it is a great piece of news because I mean I watched it on 18th August on that Sunday.
On the day itself.
Yeah, on the day itself.
While you were away.
While packing.
Oh, while packing. The packing for your baby moon. Okay, got it. Listening. Paternity leave.
Said, more paternity leave. I'm like, fathers deserve more time off. All right, wifey, I'm going off for 5 days.
The irony of it.
Before the next episode of the Yalabat podcast, here's a message from Folklory. Now, you and I are getting older. Everyone is, and we know that. But something harder to talk about is that at some point, your friends, family, parents will no longer be around. So if you could capture their stories and memories in a way that your whole family can remember for generations, would you? That's what we do at Folklory. We interview your loved ones about their life stories and favorite memories and turn those conversations into personalized podcasts that your family can listen to whenever you like. All done in as quick as 1 week. For more info, check out folklory.com or click on the link in the description. And now, on to the podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Yala, your thrice weekly podcast where we talk about the hottest news with a touch of what, Terrence?
Good old humor.
Good old humor, man.
Yeah.
How was your week, man?
Awesome. I mean, without you around, we had our most viewed Yellowbud video.
Reaching new heights are always.
Reaching new heights. Every time you go away, Yellowbud always has this big jump.
Yeah.
It's correct. It knows that you're not around, and then it needs to push things forward.
To keep the morale up, is it, while I'm gone?
I mean, you could argue keep the morale up, or it's just there's some effect of you not being around. Yeah,
it's like the absence makes the heart grow fonder, right?
I don't know about the heart grow fonder, yeah. But yeah. For those who don't know, our Kishore Mahbubani episode, crossed 100k views. It's a nice milestone. And our YouTube page also, our YouTube channel crossed 10,000 subscribers.
Hell yes, man.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming, man.
Yeah. I still remember the time when our Ministry of Funny channel crossed 10k subscribers. That was ages ago. But yeah, now it's nice to know. And it still continues to grow every day.
Yeah, correct.
On to 100, man.
Yeah. But so for you, basically you need to address the elephant in the room. Where do you disappear to the last week?
Yeah, so I know my wife is expecting very soon. But I went for a boys-only trip to Bali with some of my best friends from school.
I.e. a baby moon, a solo baby moon.
No, not solo baby moon. It was really just eight of us, all friends from secondary school. Just went there, had a great time. And just was hoping that there's no baby that pops out while I'm there. And thankfully, she didn't. So
it was your baby moon, essentially.
Yeah, it was my baby moon.
Your friends accompany you on your solo baby moon.
Yeah, I think in the relative scale of husbands, right? I think at my wife's workplace and maybe the extended family, I've gone down quite a few notches.
For being away.
But shout out to my wife, my wonderful wife, who, she knows those friends.
Yeah.
She said, no, I think it's important you go. And because these are some of my best friends. So in the end, I went.
She said that or is it
she said that, okay?
You are telling her, you think it's important that I go, right? you respect my independence and all that.
No, I clarified multiple times. Even the week before, I was like, I'm okay to not go. I'll be here by your side if you want. But then she said, no, just go.
I see.
So there was no cajoling involved, I swear. But shout out to my wife, and it was a great time.
No Swedish psychological
Stockholm syndrome.
Exactly.
Oh no! Nice try, Terrence.
Nothing forced. Nothing that she was
Swedish
forced
psychology. Is it? Swedish psychology. No, nothing forced. And it was it was fully endorsed, full consent. And it was great.
I hope you enjoyed yourself.
I did. I did have a great time. I'm not going to deny it.
I think a lot of people listening to this will be taking notes. They want to take notes from you on how to convince their wives to let them go on this trip.
But to be fair, a lot of people think that, you go, boys only trip, you all be havoc, We really didn't drink much.
Sure.
Our schedule was 7 a.m. We wake up, all of us go for a run or for a walk, come back, do yoga. Yeah. Even the yoga instructor said, I've never seen a group of 8 men just book me for a yoga session. Then we would have like overnight oats for breakfast. Then we sit down and talk, throw the frisbee.
That was the yoga instructor? Or?
Yoga instructor.
Or is it like someone role-playing a yoga instructor that she comes to say something?
No, yoga instructor, yoga instructor.
Got it.
So it was really like almost like a wellness retreat. I know it's hard to believe, okay? I know it's hard to believe, but it's true. It's true. It happened that way. I'm not lying anything. I'm not lying about anything.
Yeah.
It was a very wholesome retreat there.
Yeah. So everybody can hear the audio. You can decide for yourself how much.
You can see my face.
This
Come
is like
to the
lie
YouTube
detector.
channel and look me in the eyes. Okay, I'm telling the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
I've heard that excuse so many times for so many people's bachelor parties.
This is
it was a wellness retreat. We went shopping.
This was not a bachelor's party, okay? Terence, I have a lot of picture proof of all activities we did. Very wholesome activities.
Yeah.
A lot of ping pong as well.
Sure.
So ping pong, the spot.
The spot. Okay.
The spot with a table and 2 paddles.
Yeah.
All right. But now I'm back, man.
Yeah.
I don't know when next I'll go. It might be anytime within the next few weeks.
Correct. Yeah.
But I'm back for now, lah.
Yeah, there was a lot of incredulous looks in the office, lah. When Tristan realized that, you mean Haresh is not going for paternity leave? He's on a baby moon. People already assume that
I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
They assume that you already gone to take care of the baby. But then when I explain, no, he's gone to celebrate his current life before he actually has to go and take care of the baby.
Maybe I should bring my wife on this podcast to kind of let her share the things I've been doing up till this point.
Sure.
Otherwise, I just sound like a douche.
Yeah.
So I know I sound like a douche.
Yeah.
I think even when she told her colleagues, my husband's going to be away for a week, they're like, what? For work? Oh, no. He's going with his friends. 3 weeks before I'm due, he's going with his friends.
Yeah. And then all this is really relevant because we are talking about parental responsibilities when the baby gets born, right?
Yeah.
So all this is actually a very interesting discussion, like perceptions of what the father, should be doing.
Exactly. Like everything you are thinking in your head, lah. Right? Yeah, correct.
Essentially, basically 99% of people are probably it's all incredulous when they hear what you actually pulled last week.
Hey, I didn't pull anything. Okay, it was all out in the open, very transparent. Even my wife's family was okay with it. So I think all the goodwill I've built over the years, it came in handy. All spent in 1 week.
All spent in 1 week. One guns ablaze, like
1 week.
Full on in Bali.
But now I'm back. I'll be by her side the whole ride. So
yeah. But I mean, your wife aside and your family aside, I think like also there are some Yalabat listeners openly wondering where were our typical two-person sessions, right?
Yeah.
Because I think we had like back to back like guest interviews. To back.
Four, I think.
4 in total.
Yeah, 4 in total.
Guest interviews are all very interesting guests, I would say. But some people are clamoring for like a bit more the current affairs stuff that we talk about, right? And then what do you have to say to that?
I mean, it's in some way a warm up because I'm going to be gone for like a month, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, it's one of those things that even when we bring on our guests, you can be assured that we're going to approach it with the same ethos that we do. And there won't be any extended period of time unless there's a good reason why we won't be doing our current affairs thing.
Yeah.
So if you see a series like that, just know that we'll be back soon, man.
Yeah. And I think some of our guests, they were talking about very current things that are in people's minds, right? Politics, geopolitics, the state of the media industry in Singapore. Things like, young couples should be looking out for when they are buying their first property and stuff like that. So all that is, I think it's still relevant. We didn't get a chance to react to like National Day rally and things like that, but they were all still like good listens.
And I mean, we do want to build up our street cred as being like one of the best, if not the best, interviewing podcasts in Singapore. Right. So when let's say a big name even Sam Altman or Elon Musk comes to Singapore, they come on Yalabat, man.
That'd be awesome. Our new studio backdrop. In case of those of you who are not watching YouTube, we've got some new new backdrops.
I mean, new equipment as well. If you can spot. You can spot the new equipment. So I mean, we're still going to be cranking this out as much as we can. While I'm away, there's some experimental content coming.
Correct.
But all with the same spirit of Yalabat.
Correct. Yeah.
Cool, man.
But before all that, what do we tell people before we jump into things? What do we tell people to do?
Yeah, that if you are new here, or even if you've been listening to us for a while but haven't really followed or subscribed, please do that now. Hit the red button on YouTube, hit the green button on Spotify, subscribe to us everywhere on social media. and just so that the algorithm understands that you like our content and keeps serving it to you. And if you want to work with us, what should they do, Terence?
Yeah, you can contact us through ministryoffunny.com. There's a page with all our portfolios and everything that we do that's cool. And the contact form is there as well.
Yep. Yeah, so drop us a message and we will always try to reply.
Yeah.
All right, cool, man.
Cool. Let's jump right into the first topic, which is
right into it.
Big discussion point since the National Day rally, right? Probably dominated the headlines for most people.
Yeah.
But yeah, what is this discussion point about?
It is the news that the new PM, Lawrence Wong, in his first National Day rally on Sunday, 18th August, updated the whole country on a whole bunch of new shit. But one of the more pertinent ones, or one of the things that got a lot more discussion, is a new approach to government paid leave. Or basically parental leave for parents in Singapore. So as it stands now, it's 16 weeks of maternity leave for the mother and 2 weeks of mandatory parental leave and 2 weeks of volunteer paternity leave. So some of the big announcements was that come, I think, April 1st, 2025, the 2 weeks of volunteer paternity leave will be mandated, right? That means every father is entitled to 4 weeks of paternity leave.
Yeah.
And also there will be 6 weeks of shared parental leave. This is in addition to the 16 weeks of maternity leave and the 4 weeks of paternity leave.
Yeah.
Then come April 1st, 2026, there will be a total of 10 weeks of shared parental leave. So basically, it would go up from what it is now of 16 plus 2, which is mandated, to up to 30 weeks of parental leave.
Yeah.
And basically, a mom can take up to 26 weeks, a dad can take up to 14 weeks.
Yeah.
So it caused a lot of discussion because, I mean, one of the things in recent times that has been discussed a lot is our declining fertility rate. I think it's at 0.97 now.
Yeah.
And I think to replace, the replacement number is 1.2 or something. So we are way below that. And there's been a lot of talk about, less people wanting to have kids, how it's more expensive to have kids. So this felt like it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
But there have been a lot of discussions that are happening since then. But what made you want to talk about this?
I mean, the National Day rally was an interesting one, right? It was Lawrence Wong's first National Day rally. And you kind of wanted to see some bold step, right? That would really mark his tenure as Prime Minister. And I think this was it. This is really a big pain point for a lot of young people. It is also meant to address one of the big crises of our generation, right? But like the fertility rate. And hopefully this also encourages more young people to think about building a family in Singapore. Because we always hear about Singapore Inc. and we're just pro-business and all, but this is completely in the opposite direction, right? And it's going to take quite a bit of cajoling of employers to get this to work as well. So I think it's, even as it's being implemented in the next 1-2 years, there will still be a lot of teething issues that we will still be discussing.
I think in general for parents, soon to be parents who are couples who are thinking about having a child, it is a great piece of news because I mean I watched it on 18th August on that Sunday.
On the day itself.
Yeah, on the day itself.
While you were away.
While packing.
Oh, while packing. In the packing for your baby moon. Okay, got it. Listening, paternity
so
leave.
said, more paternity leave. I'm like, fathers deserve more time off. All right, wifey, I'm going off for 5 days.
The irony of
it. I'm just folding, my swimming trunks. I'm like, Singapore really needs to encourage more paternity, parental leave. But I listened to it, and I mean, he teased about it at the start, right? Something for young couples and young parents. But even I was damn surprised. Even when we cover all the news leading up to that, I don't think there was any indication that there would be something like this.
Yeah.
It was nice to hear that it was going to be talked about. And then when he said that, because from comments online, I think what people were expecting was that the 2 weeks voluntary paternity leave be mandated.
Yeah.
Which happened. But this additional 10 weeks, it is quite a big deal. So I think for parents and for individuals, it's a great piece of news.
Yeah.
But what came out a few days later was how businesses, especially SMEs, were looking at it. And I mean, we are kind of SME owners, right?
Yeah.
And we also one parent, one soon-to-be parent.
Yeah.
So I think, there's interesting things to think about this from both perspectives.
Yeah, and people are saying that if the father ends up taking the full 10 weeks, so he gets 14 weeks of paternity leave, right? That's more than what mothers used to get, like less than half a lifetime ago in Singapore, less than a couple of decades ago. So you think about that, that's kind of crazy, right? That a generation or two ago, they would never even dream of like the fathers being able to take that much time off. But now it's a real possibility.
Yeah.
But this will be implemented in 2 phases, right?
Yeah,
so
correct.
It's still only in 2026, April 2026, that we will see this full 10 weeks thing implemented.
Yeah. I think next October, Singapore, a lot of people are not going to be on the streets.
Correct. Maybe they're waiting for Dragon Year to pass first. Dragon Year, a lot of kids coming out, yours included, right? So that one, okay, we got one batch. There will be, more. There'll be the parents will still remain like shorter paternity leave and everything, more productive. Okay, then future we encourage more kids after the Dragon years.
Correct. Otherwise, if they did this like a year or two ago, wow, Dragon year would be insane.
Everyone will be whacking.
Insane. But on the flip side, right, like what you said about how if a father takes 10 weeks of that leave, they will be getting more than what women used to get not too long ago. But on the flip side, there have also been some concerns saying that, okay, so one reason why this was pushed and why it's shared is because, then there's more room for fathers to play a more active role in their child's upbringing, right?
Yeah.
I think there's some anecdotal stats saying that even for the 2-week voluntary top-up of paternity leave this year, less than half of fathers take it.
Yeah.
So the flip side is that what if the mother has to take 26 weeks of leave? Because that's the way of their relationship. That could almost do more harm to what already exists in terms of discrimination towards people who take excessive maternity leave and all. So that could make it even worse. That could further entrench, the gender roles and all that. So I mean, there's a lot of ifs here, but you can understand why, especially for SMEs, it could be quite tough.
Yeah. But that's an assumption that couples today would still rely solely on the mother for caregiving, right?
Yeah.
At the same time, I don't know, but in my experience, just the parents that I meet and I hang out with and I meet around and all, I think dads are a lot more involved these days. I think it's quite rare that I see ones where it's entirely the mother and, the situation where the dad says, I've never changed a diaper in my life. Very common in like older generations.
Yeah.
But nowadays, I hardly see that. Still have, but lesser, right?
Yeah.
So I would think that I think one thing is that this new rule will become a leveler in the sense that when you are an employer and you're looking at, 2 resumes, a man and a woman, there's no saying that the man, wouldn't, let's say they're both in sort of the similar phase of life, a man and woman, where they're both getting married and, potentially going to have kids in the next couple of years. There's no saying that the man will be gone for a much shorter period of time than the lady, right? Because 16 to 14 weeks is only 2 weeks difference.
Oh, that's true.
So when you look at hiring, you can't, unless you somehow manage to discern or like pry it out of them, like, so what's the relationship between you and your spouse?
Hypothetical scenario, okay? If your kid poops in the middle of the street, who will be the first to react?
Exactly.
Oh, your wife, is it? Okay, you're hired.
Or you ask them, okay, show me how you change a diaper. They see whether the guy can do it. Oh, he can't do it. Or then probably he's from a relationship where nobody, they don't care, right?
Yeah. Correct.
So in some sense, in the hiring process, it kind of at least eliminates that immediate discrimination when people think that, because you're a woman, you are definitely going to be gone for damn long compared to a man, right?
Yeah. I mean, even like for me, right? I mean, in a few weeks' time, I'll be going on paternity leave and all. And it was an immediate discussion with my wife, hey, if you want to have a second kid, this is nice to know, that in April 1st, 2026, there is going to be that flexibility because it is definitely a step in the right direction. I don't think it will make anyone go from, I don't want to have kids, to like, oh shit, 10 weeks of shared leave, let's make a baby, man. But I think it is something that, actually, the concerns of, only one person having to bear the hit to their career, which is a real thing, is addressed, you know. However it's used, I mean, you can't mandate or you can't police how even people use a knife, right? Knife can do good, but it can also do bad. So in this case, I think it's a great step in the right direction.
But just question, why need to implement in 2 phases, 6 weeks and then 10 weeks? Why not just like bite the bullet, all go in one shot, 10 weeks?
I think it is because of the feedback from the SMEs. Because if you listen to Indrani on the appearance on CNE also, I think she mentioned that, saying that there was a lot of feedback taken across the different demographics, trusting that happened. There was feedback from businesses saying, like, can they phase it out? Because you imagine, like, this is August, right? So if April 1st, 2026, this is going to kick in, it can be quite hard. Even looking at our own, right? If let's say there was, we had a colleague who immediately was going to go on like 26 weeks leave. For such a lean team, it can be tricky. And I think that's one thing that, like, as much as it's a step in the right direction, I think for the SMEs, the concern is real. And
but it
cannot just be brushed off.
Correct. But it kind of reminds me of like the GST increase. Right, being phased over 2 years, like 7 to 8, then 8 to 9. People felt the pain twice, right? And people were saying that, it gives businesses an excuse to raise prices twice, without real explanation of like whether it's profiteering or anything it is, right? And so some people were saying that if you want to introduce something that is going to be, kind of painful, why not just do it at one shot and then everyone has to adjust accordingly from there? Because this one, I can imagine that even for the SME also, it's a bit of a different, having to do it, like readjust your HR policies twice also a bit of a headache, right?
True, but I also think that, this additional shared parental leave is fully paid for by the government. Right? And I think they said that when this is implemented in 2026, it will cost the government 400 million a year. So I would imagine if you are going to do that straight up next year, I mean, the budget also. I don't know how far they plan ahead, but like, if that is like what, 2/3 or 1/3 of 400 million, it is a huge thing, to bring that forward rather than space it out.
But maybe do you think it will encourage people to wait until there's a full 10 weeks of paternity leave?
I think
that means like someone like you, your wife's giving birth next month already. If there's going to be a number 2, like, would you delay to wait at least until that 10 weeks kicks in?
I think if I asked her, hey, you really want to have second baby, she would punch me in the face.
You shouldn't. Definitely shouldn't.
She would immediately punch me in the face. So I think for me, it fits well because, but even if we want to consider, it's going to be like at least a year later.
A year and a half.
Right, a year and a half later. So, but I can imagine some people thinking that, hey, if they are not fighting like like in their 40s or something, I can imagine people waiting. Because you think about it, it's still 6 weeks to 10 weeks, and that 4 months, I think it's capped at 10K per month. But if you can get an additional time off while getting paid, up to 10K, people will wait.
That's true. That's true. But overall, like, when you watch the speech and all that, right? What was the general mood within your own family, right? Within you and your wife hearing this, were you like, God damn it, the timing and things like that? Actually,
when we heard that, we were like, hey, actually, that's quite cool. I don't think there was any feeling of fuck, if only like we waited a bit longer and all. Walao, why? No, none of that. It's more like, okay, that's interesting that's happening. And I would say across the whole National Day rally, like, the first started when listening to PM Wong, I was like, wow, is that how he normally talks? I can't remember, like very slow and all. But I thought he did a good job kind of like being engaging. And some of the things he said, especially for his parental thing and all, he delivered it well. He delivered it well. So at the end, I was like, okay, that's interesting. And it feels timely because there's been so much talk about cost of living, expenses. Maybe even personally for me, like as we work out, how much is it going to cost? We're like, oh shit, things are expensive. Hearing this, it feels like, actually there's some listening. For you?
In terms of the speech, I did think that it was a very important speech for him to give. I think he set the tone by really talking about his non-elite scholar background, right? but rising through the ranks of the civil service and essentially almost having an outsider chance of being PM, but then fulfilling that dream, right? And I mean, put aside the politics in Singapore and all that. When you watch like the Democratic National Convention that was going on in the US like the last week or so, the feeling of possibility that was exuded by all the speeches and all that at the DNC, I did feel a bit of that when watching Lawrence Wong's rally as well, where he brought on or talking about the plans for Kallang and everyone's just off the high of the Olympics and our bronze medal from Max and everything. There was this feeling like it's more than just about the numbers, the KPIs and the GST and all these things, right? So the last couple of years, probably, I think it was more about like steadying the ship and all, but now it's more like, okay, a new bold direction that we need to go. And tackling this big issue is a step in the right direction, right?
Yeah. And I can't, like, I think the past few years, the National Day rally, I always watch it after then at double speed.
Yeah.
But so I can't remember the last time I sat down and watched the National Day rally live. But it did feel like, like what you said, there was a feeling like, hey, actually, maybe got chance, like Singapore. The one thing is, I think when he spoke about COVID, he started getting a bit emotional. Then they zoomed out and they had a wide shot. Yeah. So
they wanted to hide his crying.
I think so. Because otherwise it feels like, I don't know if it could be seen like as like a crutch.
Okay.
But you could hear it a bit in his voice. I think.
Yeah.
So it's by the end of it, I was like, okay, I can go to Bali in peace.
But okay, one thing that will come up for you and other parents as well is that I think it's great to have more paternity or maternity leave immediately after the kid's born, right? But some of the complaints that parents still have, like childcare leave, still remaining the same 6 days a year, regardless how many children you have. I think that's not addressed, right? Because I think you want to encourage people to have babies, but part of the pain points of having a child is taking care of the child after that is expensive and time consuming also. And 6 days of childcare leave, unfortunately, is still not adequate, right, for a lot of people. And regardless of how many children you have, it's just not adequate, right? So there's still one pain point that I still hear people or parents talking about. Anything else you heard or seen out there that people complaining about?
I think relating to the parental leave, as much as they say, like it's for parents to spend more time with the kids, I think it's one of those things that like how your career is impacted, right?
Yeah.
I think that is kind of just assume that there will be no impact. And that's what I feel like maybe we kind of need to admit that the more parental leave you take, there will be an impact. And is it wrong for the employers to do that?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think there's no clear kind of parameters. Of course, I think they're saying, they want to safeguard employer discrimination, making sure that there is paid leave. I mean, like temp staff hired and all. But I know personally some friends who had temps come in.
Yeah.
But the time it took to hand over, the efficiency of the team, it all went down. So I think that's one of those things, like this is a great step in the right direction. I don't know what is being done to curb the spill-on effects.
Yeah.
Because if everybody expects to go on like 16 or up to 26 weeks of leave and come back and have no impact onto their career, right? I don't know. Like, is that realistic?
Yeah.
Is it wrong for the employer or for the person to come back and realize that, maybe the progression has slowed down a bit?
Yeah.
I don't think we are ready for that yet.
Yeah.
Which is the problem, because I don't know how it is in other countries where there's a longer history of longer parental leave, and it's almost like, you can be super successful, and it's almost like, in Australia, the concept of a gap year for university students is like, everybody takes it.
Yeah.
So when everybody does it, it kind of equalizes. In Singapore, right, I don't think our culture is at the level yet where we're like, okay, this person goes on leave. It's a natural thing that everybody will go through. So that is one concern of mine.
Yeah. I mean, the one person who's been receiving a lot of brickbats for something he said was Mark Lee, the vice chairman of the Singapore Business Federation, who was quoted saying that employees must understand that other colleagues are working together for the workload distribution. as such, employees on leave should also try to be flexible even when they are on leave and be there for their colleagues during emergencies.
While on parental leave, is
He's
it?
referring specifically to this new parental leave thing. And the comments on the Channel News Asia Instagram post are like avoid this dude's firm like a plague. See a therapist.
No, but that's the problem. I think there will be quite a lot of people thinking that, okay, you get more leave, but
how about everyone else?
Yeah. And also now we're getting more people not wanting to have kids. So how do they feel?
Yeah.
They probably feel like, oh shit, like if my colleague goes on leave, of course we want to encourage more kids.
Yeah.
But what does it mean for me?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's where it could get tricky.
Yeah. It could. But in essence, maybe that's what you're saying about culture, right? Like even company culture also needs to get around the fact that life doesn't revolve strictly around work, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if someone's on their paternity or maternity leave, it should be planned around that, rather than seen as an inconvenience. And if anything, the mindset of celebrating someone, doing national service like that, having family, it should be celebrated, right?
Yeah. But I think that's where the peer pressure in Singapore is a problem. Like one big thing for me, like going forward having kids, is like, yes, I would want my kid to have a certain type of childhood. But if everybody else around me is pushing their kids to do this, I hope I'm strong enough to be like, no, this is what's best. Like I think there are some things that conceptually, yes, it should be celebrated, but I mean, comparison, peer pressure, especially in a society like Singapore, is a real thing.
A real thing,
so that's why I feel like, maybe even, and I mean, assuming SMEs and MNCs can deal with this the same way is also, I think, not fair. Yes, the government will pay full shared parental leave, but what, should SMEs get a 20% top up? That's also unrealistic. But the impact to this would, SMEs will be impacted a lot more by MNCs.
And so there are some people who are suggesting that there should be more coverage for SMEs.
Like a top-up or something, is it?
A top-up, or even like, let's say, pay for like a month's salary of the employee. Not an employee who's coming back. Because there will be some overlap for handover and things like that, right? So you are essentially helping to ease the parent back into work life. And that's not, I thought that's not a bad suggestion, because it's the reality, right? There will be overlaps with temp staff even, right? It's not like on the day that the parent goes away, then the next day someone comes in and joins straight away, So there might be, they might need to implement something to help the SMEs.
I think so. Because you think about it, there are some MNCs in Singapore where they even cover the maternity cost of their employee. Right? So if you're an SME trying to attract talent, where you are already going to be having to deal with like a larger proportion of your workforce going on leave, which is fair. But if someone can apply to an SME or an MNC, have maternity coverage, have all these benefits, it's really going to impact the SME.
Correct.
So, I mean, man.
But I mean, what do you know about how it is in other countries in terms of how SMEs or dads think about their paternity leave?
I mean, amongst the things we spoke about in Bali with me and my bros, we were talking about, what it means to be a good father.
Yes.
but some of them are based in Europe. And one thing that I never realized is that for countries, I think even some of the Nordic countries, when they get 1 year of paternity leave, right? They don't get the 100% payment throughout the 1 year. There's like some stagger. The first 6 months might be full, and then the next 3 months would be like 75% and all that. And I think that is something that is sometimes missed when comparing it to other countries. Because, I've heard like, 1 year paternity leave fully paid. I'm like, oh shit, really? How do other countries do that? So I think that's one thing that is missed. But also realizing that so many different countries have so many different ways of approaching this.
And they have other sets of problems, even if their culture and all allows for longer paternity or maternity leave.
Like paid help. Right. In some countries where paid help is not as readily available or a lot more expensive, you need more paternity leave. Because if you speak to anyone who has based in London and New York, the concept of getting paid help is almost impossible unless you're like growing money on trees. So that also impacts like how these kind of leave policies are seen.
But overall, I mean, is everyone in agreement that it's better that the dad has a bit more time to spend with the child and everything?
I think definitely.
I think it's a generational, I wouldn't call it generational trauma. I think that's a bit unfair to the older generations of dads before us, right? Who basically worked with whatever cards they were given, and that's what it was. Heck, literally, even remember the National Day parades of the 1970s, the official NDP theme of those years, the word productivity was inside NDP theme. That's how obsessed Singapore was with being productive, right? Now we have another problem of a different kind of productivity. We are not producing enough children, right? So now everyone has kind of woken up to this issue and we are adjusting things accordingly. But the dads of yesteryear were working within the constraints of what life was back then. So not that it was a generational trauma, but I think it was a generational shift in mindsets where dads have to take on a much more active role. There's a lot more research that, a very healthy father-child relationship bodes well for the child in the future as well.
Yeah.
So, I think overall it's a good thing.
I think definitely it's a good thing. And it just feels like, okay, and also the announcement that, there's going to be more daycare and childcare centers being opened up.
Correct,
hopefully that happens because that is another concern. But yeah.
So you and your friends really, you all plan your next trip together.
3 years time.
Bros trip. No, after a few months of the baby, and then.
Oh no. We're keeping it to 3 years. 3 years. 3 years. Okay. 5 years will be too far. Every year will be too much. Because
important for you to get away, and just be able to clear your mind a little bit.
I mean, my wife wants to go on a trip with her friends. Feel free, go ahead. But 2027. That's what we're working towards.
Okay.
Cool.
But in Singapore we have quite unique challenges when it comes to things like child rearing and taking paternity leave and all. But there are also other things that are quite uniquely Singapore, right? Like chopping seats over lunch with tissue packet and things like that.
Yeah.
But some people in Bishan have taken this to another extreme, right?
Yeah.
And it's causing a little bit of discussion.
Yeah. Because at a community fridge restock session, I didn't even know that there was this initiative. But basically, there are initiatives in places like Bishan where volunteers collect unwanted food items and redistribute them to community fridges where the public can get them for free.
Yeah.
So there was a fridge restock at Bishan East Zone 1 Eco Hub where people had to queue up for, I think, up to 5,000 kg of fresh produce. But while queuing up, people started resorting to folded plastic bags with pebbles on them, I think handkerchiefs, and other items that people put to queue up.
Yeah.
And I mean, the organizers wrote that only physical human queues were accepted and that creative chopping was not. So, I was surprised when I saw this. I was like, oh shit, that's some pretty innovative queuing methods. And just wondering, would actually people care about this? Which is why when we first were talking about this topic, I was like, but this one makes no sense. Who in their right mind would be okay with someone chopping a physical space with an object? And I was like, Terence, why you not talk about this?
Yeah.
And then what was your response?
We do it every day at hawker centers.
Yeah.
Chopping with whatever it is, your glasses, your cards, your people put their wallets or their umbrellas and things like that. So why is it for queuing we can't use items to also represent humans and queue, right?
And I was like, oh fuck, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. And I don't know, have you watched that movie How to Make $1 Million Before Your Grandma Passes? There's this scene where they're queuing up for hospital services, right? And it's quite telling. Everyone just puts their slippers in the spot where they're supposed to be queuing, and that represents them in the queue. And then the elderly patient can go back and sit down on a chair while waiting for the queue. Then when the hospital actually opens, then people run to where the shoes are, and that represents their place in line. So I think it's not just in Singapore where people use stuff to queue. But what do you think of this? If you saw this this queue being set up for something that you were queuing up for,
Yeah, I would think hey, what the hell is this? This is nonsense. But then as you were talking about that thing, if you right now, if you go to a clinic, or even a restaurant, you get a queue number, right?
Yeah.
And then they call you when it is your number.
Yeah.
And while waiting to be called, you are technically going about whatever you want to go about.
Yeah.
So in some way, isn't that similar to having a spot in a queue that is choked using an inanimate object? Then when I think about it, I'm like, hey, actually, just like a restaurant, you can be shopping and all, but as long as you reach there early, you put in your name, you get a queue number, then you can fuck off and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
So in some way, isn't this the same thing? But this one just feels very wrong.
Yeah, something about it feels a bit wrong. Because I think even just to my earlier example, where they were at a hospital, to me that was understandable because there's a lot of elderly patients who are standing in line. And then even when they put their shoes there, it's not like they can go and run around and, do stuff like that. They're either old or the fact that they're not wearing shoes means that somebody is walking around barefoot, right? But this one, I'm not sure whether people put the stones there or the pebbles there so that they can go and go home and take a nap or something like that and wait for the store to open. But there is something there. I mean, the idea of queuing for something involves some sacrifice of time, right? And comfort, right?
But then restaurants?
Then that's why the restaurant has implemented a queue system that works for them, right? Where you can be SMS or whatever. But this one, there's no SMS, there's no indication that, that you definitely will come back for your pebbles or anything like that, right?
So that means let's say if they had something like a digital queue number where you leave your pebble and then they will call you.
Yeah.
Is that okay?
I think it's okay. Digital queue number.
Because
that's the system, right? But this one is they're sort of forcing their own system onto this queue, right?
So as opposed to using the tissue to choke tables, that's like an accepted system.
I think enough people have do it, so with no choice.
So if this happened in physical queues everywhere in Singapore, then at some point what you're saying is that it will be known as the de facto system.
Correct.
But now because you are trying to be the first one, cannot.
It shouldn't be. Yeah. But at the same time, I look at this and I'm like, this the idea that the fact that people are even queuing, we should appreciate that, because just from what I'm seeing of in public nowadays, there are a lot of people who
don't care.
And I mean, not trying to be xenophobic about it, but sometimes it's people who come from countries where maybe people don't respect queues that much, or is every man for himself, right? So there's very little understanding of how in Singapore we try to do things quite orderly, in an orderly fashion. So there's a lot of cutting queue, a lot of when they just cut your queue, they just give this blank look, like they don't know what's going on, and that can you really blame them, right? So maybe in some sense, this is still a better solution than letting it become a free for all, like how it's becoming in a lot of other parts of society, right? I don't know if you feel that, do you feel that people are less respectful of queues and all that these days?
I mean, every once in a while when someone cuts a queue, I'm like, fuck this, okay, whoa. Then when I say, excuse me, the queue behind, they are so apologetic, and it seems like a real genuine mistake. Then I'm like, oh shit, I was just a judgmental asshole. I would say I think more of the people that I see cutting queue in my, from what I can recall, tend to be also quite a few Singaporeans. I think the things that I see most is at Indian weddings and all, right? All these uncles and aunties, they just, they talk, oh, how are you? And then just fucking slide into the queue. And I hate that. Okay, I hate that.
There's literally a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode about that, right? Yeah.
There's a term also, he said...
cut and chat or something like that.
It's messed up. So, but in this case, I think maybe one thing also is, this one sounds like it was done at a residence network, means that it was under a block or something, right? So that's where I can imagine if it's a block or residence nearby, you can literally pop down and go back up. Whereas a restaurant, it still feels like, you're going to have to just hang around. I think that might be a difference here. And I think that one, I think what you also said about how this is not a proven system yet. This is not a widely adopted system yet.
And to force other people to accept it as it is, I think is a bit much. Whereas choping, I mean, for what it's
accepted already.
Even I don't like practicing it, but I so many people do it that you're like, okay you just follow it right,
So that means it might be something that if you see it in every queue in Singapore, then it becomes okay, because you walk into a queue kind of expecting this. So this is just a renegade group of people trying to enforce themselves.
Correct. But my sort of ambiguous answer about it, about whether I support having this or not. It's because I see the other extreme where,
don't queue.
People don't even queue anymore. In fact, in the last week, I saw 2 instances where people, I think I was at what was that, Resorts World Universal Studios, and I was in line for an ice cream or something like that, and then the person right behind me, a young teenager or something, she was just holding a $50 note, and like she was buying something pre-packaged already, so she was just holding it and waving the $50 note in front of the cashier as the cashier was attending to me and trying to take my order and all.
Really?
Yeah, she's literally like just waving at her, like trying to like force the cashier to take her money because she already has decided what she's ordering. And then the cashier was standing firm. I could tell on her face she was like, what the fuck? But she was just like tunnel vision, tries ignoring her and just continuing to talk to me. And I see that as that's the battle that we're going to have in Singapore, where, Singaporeans, we already have our sort of established ways of doing things, right? And they're not perfect, but we've been doing it for a while, right? And then now there are people from other cultures coming in where maybe it's a bit different, where the first one you force your way in and you get things like that. That's the norm in their society, and they're trying to force it here in Singapore. And in some ways, I feel like there has to be a process of give and take, some pushback from outside about that's not how we do things here, and from their side about, they also need to accept that you can't just do what they used to do back then.
So then shout out to that cashier.
Shout out to the cashier. So that's where I was like,
solid.
It's the cashier who, I salute her, where I didn't have to I didn't have to get in the altercation with the customer about it, right? Where the cashier held her ground,
Because I think I've had experience like that also, and I'm like, wow, thank you so much, man. Like they just skip past, sorry, yes sir, what you want?
Exactly.
Solid.
So that's what they probably needed here, someone like a sheriff kind of to set tone, like, hey, you all can't put the pebble here. Then okay, then everybody.
But if there's no one there to tell, then what they should have told the people is, come, go past the pebble, you skip forward, we don't move the pebble, but you all can move. Yeah, you all can move. This one all don't count. So in some way they also can't complain that you're like, hey, how can you take my spot and all?
So if you were the guy right behind one of the row of pebbles, and then it happens to be, okay, next is your turn. If all these pebbles,
I'll go past.
You won't just like kick the pebbles aside.
No, I'll leave it there.
Okay,
you just go past.
Okay.
It's like I think the trickier thing is like if someone comes in and takes a pebble and goes first, then I'll be like,
irritated, right?
Yeah, I'll be irritated. But then if you tell them also, they'll be like, oh, I put my pebble already. Then you're like, what the fuck pebble?
You throw your pebble in front of her.
Such rude pebble. But because, there's no saying that you cannot use pebbles. But there's also no saying you can use pebbles. Whereas, that's why the tissue thing, it's probably taken a long time to build up to that, but it's accepted enough that if someone sits at a place where there's tissue, the tissue owner comes back saying, oh, I booked this. I can imagine other people saying, oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Because it's the system.
Correct, yeah. And I think we've talked about this where we don't want to practice it and all, but we end up respecting it also. Not respecting, but we just like begrudgingly, okay, someone put the tissue there. We're not gonna target that seat, right?
Yeah. Because in the end, we also sometimes put like, I wouldn't say tissue, but like a card or something.
Correct. So over the years, I think maybe my position has shifted a bit because I see that I rather have at least some system, some semblance of system, than no system at all. Another anecdote, another thing that I was trying to get on this big kid ride that involved like multiple people, and then there were other kids just jumping onto the ride, before their parents even paid.
This was where?
This was at a mall where they had one of those long trains, Caterpillar train things where you pay money and then your kid can sit on the ride, then it goes around the mall and all that, right?
Yeah.
So there were some parents who the kids just ran in, just jumped on the seat. The parents hadn't paid or lined up for anything yet. And then I was already at the front of the queue paying before my kid got on. And then I just looked at the cashier. I was like, hey, there's no more seats, Like, I'm going to pay here. Do I still have to wait for my seat? Because there are people sitting in the seats. Then you can tell the cashier got very flustered because now the cashier had to go and like chase those kids off the seats and all that. And as she went to go and chase all the kids off the seats, I think one of the kids just pulled out like $50 note. I'm ready to pay like that, basically. I was waving it in the air at her and she's like, no, you have to go to the counter and pay for this. Yeah. So she stood her ground and chased them off, which I was like, wow. So in 1 week I saw these 2 instances where they come from cultures where they don't really respect cues as much. And that's I think there's a big fight that we're going to have in Singapore. Cultural wars.
Either that or you just carry pebbles in your pocket wherever you go. Okay, this is my cue and this is my cue. Yeah, correct. At a hawker center, you just put one pebble in all the queues.
Yeah.
You see which pebble moves first.
Yeah. I think, but that's the thing. I think there'll be people coming who don't even care about those pebbles. It's almost like some Game of Thrones thing like that. The zombies from the north and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
And we wow, we don't know how to handle them.
What is this?
We're all fighting amongst each other about tissue or no tissue, pebbles, no pebbles.
Just come $50.
Yeah, exactly.
$50. Cut the shit, okay?
Yeah.
$50.
Exactly.
But
yeah.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, that's the Singapore that we're in now. But speaking of which, it's been a while, but what is your one Shiok comment of all this couple of weeks, right?
Yeah. My one Shiok thing is
no comment.
Oh, one Shiok comment. My one Shiok comment. So there was a one Shiok comment from ZZ Way on the podcast with Lionel Lee 559 on Reddit. ZZ Way, long time commenter. I mean, just I think they appreciated Lionel coming on board to talk about wanting to uplift the compensation for bus drivers, understanding that they are aging bus drivers, that their role is something that a lot of foreigners will come in and take, and there's a limited window for Singaporeans to fill it. So yeah, I mean, they were saying, when he saw the influx of local applicants from all walks of life applying for a job, I can hear his pride and finding the audience that the industry is missing all this while. They managed to speak really well. I hope such unsung heroes contributing to Singapore are celebrated in Yalabat to great guests. So, I mean, that was nice to know. Because we met Lionel Lee off, just separately, and we thought, hey, this guy's doing some cool shit. And yeah, people enjoyed it, which is great.
Good to know.
Yeah. What about you, man?
Mine's also from Reddit. The Voice Elephant says, does anyone else think the Tell You First intro music sounds like the Overcooked game soundtrack? I did not know that, and then I went to listen to what the Overcooked game soundtrack is, and yeah, you are right, Turquoise Elephant. Tell You First intro music is very similar to the Overcooked game soundtrack.
Did Tristan know that before he edited it?
No. But maybe that's why we all defaulted to that. It was this jovial, like slightly
nice cheeky also. Quite cheeky also.
Yeah. But cool.
Cool, man.
And yeah, what is your one Shiok thing?
My one Shiok thing is a podcast episode on Joe Rogan, which I haven't listened to for a while, but recently, about a week and a half ago, he had as a guest Peter Thiel.
Yeah.
Who is one of the PayPal mafia. Who, I mean, what by that means that he was one of the founders of PayPal along with Elon Musk, and they're called PayPal mafia because a lot of them have gone on to build like massive companies. Of course, Elon Musk, Reid Hoffman, the guy who started LinkedIn, Peter Thiel, who started Palantir, and now, I mean, he gets a lot of flack for being like a very far right JD Vance supporter, but I mean, this guy, he's super smart. He runs a very successful tech company that has also gotten a lot of flack for, helping increase surveillance by the state in countries and all. But the things he talks about range from, alien life forms to the nuclear power to how AI is kind of like under-celebrated as an achievement. Because apparently the AI has passed the Turing test.
Yes.
Which is a test of like, human sentience, like whether you can fool someone into thinking you're actually human. And he says people are refusing to acknowledge how insane that is. But on the flip side, he said, actually, if you look at it, he feels technology has stagnated over the past 20 years. Because, we hear so much rate of advancements, right? He says most of the advancements has been in bits, meaning online, as opposed to atoms, which is real life. And he looked at, like traffic is worse than ever before. The Concorde got discontinued in 2003, and there's been so much talk about supersonic flight, supersonic travel, but nothing. And all the innovation is online. Once you take that, right, we've actually stagnated as a society. Which I feel, that's an interesting take. So I'm halfway through, but interesting.
Man Crush?
No, not yet.
But he's the guy that also like helped Hulk Hogan sue.
Yeah. So I mean, he's
supporting Trump also.
He's gotten a lot of flack for a whole bunch of shit that I don't agree with, and even Joe Rogan has gotten flack for not pushing him on certain things, like even Jeffrey Epstein and all. But certain thoughts like this, I think is interesting to think about, because you look at it like there's so much advancement just on the phone, on the computer. But for everything else, right? And he said, humans, we are still a physical species. We live in the physical world, but there's not enough innovation there.
that's true.
Interesting. Interesting. What about you, man?
Take a listen. Mine is also about the realms of like human achievement, right? Talking about the limits of human achievement. It's this new meme video from ASMRZ by two South Korean comedians called Tanaka and Need More Cash. It's called Good Night Ojo-sama. I don't understand what it's about, but it's already got 14 million views, and they've become like Gangnam Style overnight, being invited to Japan, being invited to Taiwan to perform this dance. People in Korea are, performing this dance, I guess, on TikTok in public, It makes zero sense. It's two guys dressed as butlers singing about why you should go to sleep and why, it's not having sleep is bad for your skin. And then they dance. And it's just gotten
what the hell
14 million views overnight. And just that kind of you can't understand it like PPAP, Gangnam Style in some ways. But it's not about the musicality or how cool or how well they sing. It's just one of those things, lah. And I think that's my one Shiok thing is this earworm that's been in my head for the last few days, lah.
Oh, serious, huh?
Yeah. But interesting, lah. I was trying to understand like what are these two people about, and they're just two comedians with like YouTube channels, separate comedians.
It's like what the fuck with Ilvis, what the fuck?
That level, like what? But that one is like really funny, and you understand it's kind of stupid, right? This one I don't understand what it is about. It's just like two butlers talking about it's time to go to bed, and they just keep singing that, and it's gone crazy viral. They performed in Japan, Taiwan, and on shows and stuff like that.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
cool, man.
Check that out.
Awesome.
Cool.
All right.
Back in business.
Back in business.
Yeah.
So as always, if you enjoyed it, please share this with one person who may not have heard of us, and follow us on all our social media. And if you want to work with us, what should they do, Terrence?
Check out ministryoffunny.com.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.